Hi, and welcome to another virtual fun challenge. I'm Kristen. I'm one of the program specialists with Girl Scouts of Central Indiana, and today we are going to do crystal letters. So this is a really fun and easy activity where you guys can also learn a little bit more about science. So let's go over the materials first. You're going to need some containers to grow your crystals in, and I just grabbed a couple cups from my cabinet. You can use anything that will hold our materials perfectly fine. You're going to need pipe cleaners. I'm going to encourage you to try to find some white or light ones as well as some color ones. An optional item is going to be food coloring. If you don't have that, that's okay. This is just something that you can add into your experiment. We're going to need some pencils or some kind of rod-like things to hold our letters. You're going to need string, or it could be like twine or a fishing line. So something along those lines. You can even use pipe cleaners if you don't have that. You're going to need some scissors. You're going to need some measuring devices. You're going to need a measuring device to measure out 1 cup as well as 1 tablespoon. And then you're going to need some containers that you can make your solution in. And then the very last thing is our special ingredient, which is going to be borax. So this you can find at pretty much any of the major like grocery stores or like Walmart. I think even think like the dollar stores. You might have some at your home, but if not, that might be the one ingredient that you have to run out and get. So for today's activity, what you're going to do is you are going to first start to warm up some water. So this can be done in the microwave, on a hot plate, or on the stove. It does not need to be boiling. It just needs to be really, really hot. And you have to measure out how much water you're heating up. This is going to be kind of dependent on how many letters you want to make, on what the size of your container is. My cups don't hold a whole lot of water, and so I don't have to do as much. But if I want to do a lot of letters, I got to make more. And you can always make more later, so don't worry about that if you get the mixture a little off. So I went ahead and warmed up 2 cups of water. And so for every cup of water, you're going to add in 3 tablespoons of your borax solution. So again, for every cup of water, 3 tablespoons of borax. So what's going to happen is our borax is actually like a soft crystal itself. If you pour it out, it kind of looks like a nice white powder. And so when you put that in the warm water, what's happening is in warm, hot water, the water molecules actually spread out. And they're like, I don't want to be next to one another. And that allows the borax molecules to kind of come in and fill in all of the empty space and everything. So what we end up getting is something called a super saturated solution. So when we have really hot water and we pour in our borax, we have a super saturated solution. And that just means that we have put every bit of borax that we can put in here, and it's still gonna mix. So if we keep putting more borax in, at some point it's no longer gonna saturate, and so our borax is just gonna settle to the bottom. So we're putting in just the right amount where it's super saturated, has all of the borax that it can hold within the suspension of this solution. So once your water is heated, and then you've added in your borax and you mix it up, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pipe cleaners and you're going to make your letters or shapes. So for me, I went ahead and made a K for Kristen, and kind of looped it around. I will show you in the end that I took my string and I tied it on to one of the ends of my letter. So when I did this yesterday, I wasn't really thinking, I was just putting the string anywhere, and so now my string is making some of my letters like hang wonky. So you may want to think about when you tie your string, then it's able to hold up the letter if you want to hang it, maybe from like a window or something, because these make great little light catchers. So once you have your letters or shapes created with your pipe cleaner, you have your string tied on, this is where you can add in your optional food coloring. So this works really, really well with the white or light pipe cleaners. This is not gonna work the same with your black pipe cleaners. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in a couple drops of green food coloring. And I'm gonna mix that in just a little bit. I'm gonna pour that into my container that I'm gonna use. And then from there, what you're gonna do is you're gonna suspend your pipe cleaner's design into the liquid. The goal is that you do not want it touching the bottom and that you do not want it touching the sides. So for me, I just kind of wrap the rest of my string around my pencil, and I leave my pencil right on my cup, just like that. And that's it for your experiment. However, you have to let it sit here for about 24 hours. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer, depending on where you're at, how warm your house is, or how cool your house is. So you might have to let it sit for just a little bit longer. So let me go ahead and show you guys some of the designs that I made from yesterday. So my kids and I were making some. So I actually made a K yesterday. So come in a little bit closer if you guys can check that out. So one, if you loop your pipe cleaners, I think you kind of get a better accumulation of the crystals. So there's a K from yesterday. This is the one that keeps sticking. So we've got a black pipe cleaner that we used to make an A. So this one was stuck on the side, and so I didn't have a lot of crystals form on some of the edges where it was touching the side, but everything else looks really, really, really good. We made just a swirl, so kind of like a fun little pattern and everything with lots of crystals around there. And we also made a letter B. And so you guys can go ahead and have some fun and experiment with that. So let me explain just a little bit more about the science. So we talked about the warm water is gonna have all the water molecules pushing out, and that's gonna allow all the borax to come in and fill in those like kind of empty spaces. Well, how we get the crystals though is once we let our solution just sit here, like we're doing with this one right here, over time, our solution is going to cool. And as it cools, those water molecules are like, okay, and they kind of come back in. Well, that forces the borax molecules to kind of move around, and they end up starting to clump together. So they're going to clump together and start to crystallize on our pipe cleaners. If you can see here, they actually crystallized on my glass too. One thing that's interesting, and this is a wonder if one was warmer than another or one got more sunlight than another, but if you look at my two glasses, I actually have a little bit of a different crystal form. This one is smaller crystals, and this one has larger crystals in it. So not only am I creating some really cool name designs I can hang up in the window, I'm running some really neat little science experiments. So some other things that you can do with this, obviously you can make lots of different designs and shapes. But if you want to continue the scientific process, what you could also try doing is changing up the experiment. So you might want to try to add in more or less borax and see what that does. You might want to try sugar or salt instead and see if that forms any crystals. And another thing that you could do is you could also see if what happens if you change the cooling process. So instead of just leaving it out, what happens if you put your container in the refrigerator or the freezer? Now I will say, if you're using glass, don't put hot liquid in a glass in a freezer because it might break, so you don't want to do that. But have fun, experiment, try to only change one variable at a time. So you don't want to go and try to do it with sugar and putting it in the fridge to see what the difference is. You want to try only changing one thing at a time. Hopefully you guys make some great designs. Feel free to send them over to Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. We'd love to see what you made. Hang them up in your windows and continue having fun with these virtual challenges. We look forward to seeing you guys again. Thanks. Bye.